HB 3063 stands to be the strictest and most sweeping vaccine mandate legislation in the country, removing over 31,500 children from school, from their friends, sports teams, and their peers, and their trusted teachers and community. It will remove thousands more from daycare and preschool, placing an economic hardship on working families and single-parent families. It removes the parent's ability to space out vaccines or make any decisions about vaccinations with their doctor, and hands over the rights of these decisions to unelected state bureaucrats. Any child missing one dose of any of the over 22 required vaccines will be denied access to any public, private, or charter school education. Yes. And this includes some of our most vulnerable children with disabilities and IEP accommodations that will be left to fend for themselves. In Oregon, we work hard to provide for our families. Are you there? And to consult. Oh, hello. Are we there? Most appropriate medical decisions for our children. In Oregon, we need to continue to strive to provide education and extracurricular activities to all children to prepare them to be the next leaders of our country and champions of their own success. Passage of HB 3063 hurts Oregon families and their children. As a community and a society, we are constantly being told we are in opposing groups, that we are pro-vaccine, or we are anti-vaccine, or we're liberal, or we're conservative, and so on down the line. But this issue right here, this issue of maintaining informed consent, is an issue that affects every single citizen from across all political spectrums. Yeah. And we stand here today together in solidarity for our freedom to the rights of our body and to our children. We will not be divided on this issue. We come from all professions and all walks of life, and we are parents, we are grandparents, friends, and neighbors. We are Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, and nonpartisan. We are voters, we are citizens, and most importantly, we are humans. And we stand on this issue of maintaining medical freedom and choice, of preserving informed consent, and we stand united. They can't divide us. This is not a partisan issue. And we are so thankful to all the different groups and individuals that have come here together today to send a strong and clear message to our elected lawmakers to ask them to support education for all of Oregon's children and to call on them to vote no on HB 3063. Together, we support every person's right to bodily integrity and to make decisions in the best interest of their child's health without the threat of having to choose between making an informed decision based on the needs of our child and losing the ability to send our child to school. That's a choice no parent should have to make. So we're all here today, and the most important thing you can do is get your voice heard and continue to call, email, and meet with your legislators. And Oregonians for Medical Freedom actually just got a super cool new tool that allows us to connect you with your legislators directly. So if you'd like to participate, I think it would be really cool if everybody pulled out their cell phones right now and you can text the word RALLY, R-A-L-L-Y, to 70375. And what this will do is it will prompt you to become a part of Oregonians for Medical Freedom Rapid Response Network. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. Yes, there's some signs around here. Yes, leave that up, yep. Text RALLY to 73075, and that will automatically send a message to everybody in that building right now. We can email them all at the same time and ask them to drop this bill. So if you'd like to do that, I think that would be great. They need to hear your voice on this. Let's see. So in Oregon here, we're not alone in facing this sweeping legislation to mandate vaccines for our children. I'm sure you've seen in the news that we're not the only state facing a vaccine mandate. Along several other states are facing the same battle. And so next I would like to introduce Jacqueline Gallion from Informed Choice Washington. She's the Eastern Regional Director. She's a kids, and she is a wonderful voice in this movement. Washington effectively shot down legislation in their state that sought to mandate the full school schedule of vaccines, and we are proud to stand together in that message of unity, in our message to our elected officials that education is not for sale in Oregon, and our children's education is not a bargaining tool to force medical interventions against a person's will. Jacqueline, welcome to Oregon. Thank you for all you do.
Hello, Oregon Warriors! Woo! It was Robert Kennedy Jr. who said the checks and balances in our democratic system that are supposed to stand between the corporate power and our little children have been removed. And there's only one barrier left, and that's the parents. I am proud of you all for being here, for standing up, for showing up, and to let your legislators know that you will not be sold to pharma. All over the United States, all over the world, this battle is being fought. Lies are being told about us, about vaccines, about the vaccine programs, and about infections, and about our children. Last week in Washington, hello? Did we get it? Okay. Last week in... Hello? There? Okay. Last week in Washington, Senator Lisa Wellman said we were just a small, loud group of people, and she was not going to respond to our fantasies. She said the information she has been given is unscientific, not based on fact, and I don't know everything that she was sent, but Informed Choice Washington sent her... Oh my gosh, this is so hard. I wish I had the podium. I know. And hold what? Yes, that would be awesome. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, so I'm going to be right here. Okay, woo! All right, but Informed Choice Washington sent her data from Merck and the CDC and VAERS. And is she saying those sources are unscientific? Not based on fact? Well, guess what, Senator Wellman? We agree with you. Much of the information coming from those sources is misinformation. That's screwed up public health and sciences today. Yeah. Go get them. Nobody and nothing can be trusted. The facts and lies are tangled together in one clustered up mess, making it almost impossible to tell fiction from fantasy. We untangled some facts and sent them to Senator Wellman, but she believes the fantasies. For those legislators who are understandably confused by all this, I'll give you some help on telling fact from fantasy. Yeah. Merck being on trial for fraud regarding the MMR and the Gardasil vaccine is fact, not fantasy. Vaccine failure, outbreaks of whooping cough and measles in fully vaccinated people is fact, not fantasy. Vaccine injury that leaves a child chronically ill that is reported by millions of parents worldwide, with injuries recorded in published case studies with symptoms actually listed on the federal vaccine injury table are fact, not fantasy. Believing that being injected with a vaccine cocktail makes a child healthy is not fact. That is pure fantasy. Last week in Washington, the ugliness escalated to more than fantasies. State Senator Pat Cooterer said on the Senate floor that parents who do not vaccinate their children are weaponizing them. I will repeat that. She said, we are not children. Oh, hold them down so I can. Oh, okay, good. Okay, is this one? Since when does refusing to inject a pharmaceutical product that is currently in federal court for fraud, that pushes a benign infection out of childhood and into adulthood, that comes with the risk of injury and death, since when does that constitute weaponizing a child? My 8 children are healthy, happy, and vaccine-free. And we're proud of that. Yes. We are a responsible family that takes care of our immune systems by living a healthy lifestyle. Woo! It is shocking that any elected official would call my children or any child weapons. Senator Kuderer is blaming the problem of the fraud and flaws on the vaccine industry and captured public health agencies on the innocent children who are being treated as worthless. Senator Kuderer also talked about a cousin's child who was severely vaccine injured, and because of it, his sibling has a medical exemption. She claims this proves the system works and that the non-medical exemption should be taken away. It's astounding that she did not listen to her own words. She believes parents should agree to sacrificing their firstborn child to the vaccine program, because if they are injured or killed, the system may compensate them and then let their siblings off the hook. This is the insanity of the war we are fighting. Ignorance everywhere, lies everywhere, and the pharmaceutical industry everywhere. They have been at our Capitol in Olympia, and they are here in Salem, in this building, walking the halls, having meetings, buying your legislators dinners, selling them sales pitches, and promising them campaign donations. As bad as that is, it gets worse. Pharma runs our public health departments, and those departments are testifying against parents to support these horrific bills. Yes, boom. All of the leading public health positions are filled with members of pharma-funded organizations like AIM, NACHO, and ASTHO. All of these organizations have published missions to eliminate non-medical exemptions, and they have infiltrated all aspects of health. And this must end. Where are the checks and balances? Who do public health agencies answer to when they mislead elected officials and the public? What's the end game here? Who do we turn to when the corruption and capture are happening at the highest levels? At the CDC, the FDA, the HHS? What's left except revolution? Banning healthy kids. Banning healthy kids from public places and schools for fear of disease they do not care.
Hello?
There, okay. All right. Banning healthy kids from public places and schools of fear of disease they do not carry is no different than any other irrational and hateful discrimination history has seen. It's no different than segregating blacks in public spaces or ostracizing homosexuals out of fear they might have AIDS. Are we setting the stage for hate crimes? Our governments are creating an environment where it is acceptable to harm a healthy, vaccine-free individual. This is no longer about vaccines. This is a civil rights matter. Yeah. This is about pharma using public health and our elected officials to turn us all into lifelong customers. And I am here today to say we do not consent. Pharma and public health agencies want legislators to believe that parents are stupid, lazy, ignorant, and socially irresponsible. But they know we are smart. Okay. No, did I miss a page?
Nope.
Yeah. Okay. Here's the part.
But they
Okay.
know
Sorry.
we are
Okay. I thought that we missed a page.
Yeah.
But they know we are smart. We've seen their internal communications about us that show we are intelligent and highly educated, and that we know more about the vaccines than the doctors who inject them. And it's times like this when they attempt to steal from us our God-given rights, when they put pharmaceutical profit ahead of our health and our rights. And that's when we really come to realize that we are in charge of our destiny, not the government. We are in charge of our children, not the government. And we are in charge of our states and this country, not. This is our land, and these are our children. And we do not consent. I am proud and honored to be here with you all today. We are standing tall. We are speaking truth. We have exposed the corruption and the fraud. And we're uncovering the lies that are being told. And we will not let this manufactured crisis go to waste. We will continue to show them that we are done. We are done with the government's recommendations, done with their guidelines, done with their selling our children to the pharmaceutical companies. I'm almost done. And we will not rest. We are fired up to end the corporate capture of our health departments and the sellout of our children. And we will separate pharma and state, and we will not rest until it happens. Woo! This is our country, our state, our children, and pharma, we are done. Okay, I think I'm done. We do not consent. We do not consent. We do not consent. We do not consent. We do not consent.
We do not consent. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you so much, Jackie. We have Dr. Thomas. He's a board-certified pediatrician to over 15,000 at Integrative Pediatrics in Portland, Oregon, author of the Vaccine-Friendly Plan and YouTube's top pediatrician to almost 1 million subscribers. Dr. Paul stands for medical freedom and informed consent.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much for being here. How many here have a child who's affected by vaccines? That's a third to half the crowd. How many of you know somebody who's had a negative effect from vaccines? I'm seeing every hand go up. This is a freedom rally. We're gathered here united by one thing: freedom. Freedom to choose what goes in our bodies. Freedom to protect our children. Freedom to say no to forced medical procedures. Freedom to live without government interference in our parenting. Freedom to choose how we build our children's immune systems. Freedom to be healthy. And freedom to seek and follow the science and the truth. So what is the truth, and what is the science telling us? The truth is, there are no studies, zero, no studies comparing the CDC schedule to unvaccinated children. We know that the hepatitis B vaccine being injected to every newborn in this country is only needed by 0.2% of those babies. 99.8% of women in America do not have hepatitis B when they deliver. And that vaccine is toxic. We have studies showing there's a 3-time increase in autism for children getting the newborn hepatitis B vaccine, 9 times increase in neurodevelopmental problems. That's the science. The truth is that House Bill 3063 and bills like it around this country seek to eliminate the healthy control group. We have a lot of healthy control group families in this crowd. We're not going to give up our right to have healthy children. The truth is, the healthy unvaccinated threaten to expose what vaccines really do. The truth is, the unvaccinated are no threat to community immunity or to the vaccinated. House Bill 3063 would mandate that every child in Oregon get every vaccine, and medical exemptions will be nearly impossible. It is a crime. There are about, we're told, 30,000 Oregonian children who are not completely vaccinated. And this is what they're after. All of this to be able to just slam a whole bunch of vaccines into just 30,000 children. If you do the math, we have 4 million people in Oregon. If every single one of those kids get those vaccines, we will increase the vaccination rate by 0.7%. It will have zero impact on community immunity. So there's some big lies, folks. House Bill 3063 will protect Oregonians. It's a lie. House Bill 3063 is needed because of the measles crisis. I was told not to touch the measles topic, but I can't resist. Because here's the thing. We've had 73 cases in Southwest Washington and one other case in Washington. We've had 10 total cases in Oregon, 4 related to that outbreak. There haven't been any new cases in the past few weeks. It's over. The epidemic is completely done and no one died. But it gets better. It gets better. Let me tell you the real truth about this epidemic. In late February, when we were at the height of it, there were 49 cases in Southwest Washington. We just went from 1 to 4 in Oregon. A patient of mine who was unvaccinated, had been at the MODA Center on the day of exposure, comes in with cough, congestion, high fever, and then the rash. My doctor was terrified it's probably measles. I looked. Could be. I didn't think so, just going with the odds, but it could be. We called the Oregon Health Authority, and we were told there has not been a single case of community-acquired measles in the entire outbreak. Don't send your sample. So they were so sure that there was no risk, they wouldn't even take a sample from a possible case, while on the news the same day, they're saying, this is so dangerous, 9 out of 10 children will get the measles, and a lot of those die. Okay? So we're being given misinformation about measles, and I'm not trying to minimize the fact that measles can kill people, but I did the math, and in this country, we'll have a death every 50 years. You should run and hide. I want to talk briefly about the elephant in the room always, and that's autism. I've just met one of my patients here before I came up here who their story was like the story I've heard hundreds of times. They had a neurotypic, normal, healthy child, got their vaccines up through the MMR, and that day or shortly after that, their child regressed and they lost their child. Now, we're being told that's not true. It doesn't happen. Okay. I was asked this year in January, the authorities approached my office and said, prove that the vaccine-friendly plan, that's the book that I wrote, and by the way, it's just one guideline. It's not how everybody should do anything. It's just a book with an outline of a different way of vaccinating that's safer than the CDC schedule, but I had to prove it. So I hired an outside medical consultant, Dr. Michael Graven, an informatics expert, MD, pediatrician, neonatologist, who set up healthcare systems in 45 countries around the world. I said, just deep dive into my data. I don't know what you're going to find. Let's figure this out. So he did. He spent a week in my office in February, and the data for you is right here. So there were 3,344 patients born into my practice since I opened my doors 10.5 years ago. Those were the patients we looked at. Out of those, there were 715 who by parents' choice were unvaccinated. The rate of autism was 1 in 715. You can get autism when you're not vaccinated. But what's the rate for everybody else who is vaccinating? Well, for the vaccine-friendly plan, there were 6 out of the 2,600 and some for a rate of 1 in 440. And what's the CDC rate? 1 in 45. They just published data out of New Jersey. The rate in New Jersey now is 1 in 35 for 4-year-olds. The average age of diagnosis is 4.5, which means the rate is actually double 1 in 35, so it's 1 in 18 or 19. And for boys, it's double that, so you're 1 in 9. Are we going to wait till it's every other child? Most of you know that the study that was used and is continually quoted as showing proof that vaccines are safe and not related to autism is the study by William Thompson at the CDC, who then became the whistleblower. And he came out with the data. It was presented in Vaxxed, showing, by the way, that's just a documentary, and our producer of Vaxxed, will hear from him later. Yes, you are. If you haven't seen it, you need to see it. It's just a documentary, and it's mind-boggling because they had the data that showed increased autism in vaccinated kids. specifically also for the MMR if it's given early, and specifically for African American boys if given before age 3, a huge increase in autism. So anyway, that data that was supposed to be destroyed, he kept it. He became the whistleblower. To this date, he has not been called up to Congress to testify, and he's been saying he's willing to do that. So we know from the very studies done by the CDC that vaccines are linked to autism and so much more. All right, Cheryl Atkinson, Full Measure in January, if you haven't seen it, exposed the fact that in vaccine court, the government's own main doctor testimony, Dr. Andrew Zimmerman, has an affidavit out that states vaccines can cause autism. They misquoted him on one case and used it to dismiss hundreds of cases. So, or thousands. I represent 15,000 patients in my practice, and I'd like to say I represent the unborn and anybody else who is not aware of the fact that there are problems with our vaccines and with our vaccine schedule. So every day in my office I'm asked, what are we going to do if House Bill 3063 passes? People are terrified. And I imagine most of you are wondering the same thing. We the people, parents who know the truth. Here's the thing. I can't unknow what I know, and nor can you, right? So we the people, parents who know the truth, I ask you this. Will you ignore what you know and go get all the vaccines? I thought so. Will you decide that they must be right since they passed a bill? Are you going to give up and just line your kids up for all the vaccines? All right. Your parents, are you going to lay your life down for your child? Would you pull your child from school if that's what it took? Would you leave the state if that's what it took? I hope you guys are listening. Most of the 30,000 who they want to vaccinate leave the country if we have to. Most of these 30,000 parents, or children rather, it's probably fewer parents, some have multiple kids, are not going to make a change based on this ridiculous bill. So united, we all say to House Bill 3063, no! All right. The truth is, like I said, we cannot unknow what we know. No legislator, law, doctor can convince me that what I saw happen to my child didn't happen. It breaks my heart to think that you're going to tell somebody you're their doctor, for example, and they've told you the story of what happened, and you just say, well, that didn't happen. Right? It's insane. Absolutely unethical. So, yeah. That's a trucker, you guys. When our children are harmed, we still love them completely. We double our efforts to protect. We devote every moment to them. We see them as beautiful, and we look past their shortcomings. But we don't celebrate harm by calling it harm diversity or neurodiversity. House Bill 3063 and all mandatory vaccine bills and bills that remove parents' right make the inferior CDC schedule, that one-size-fits-all schedule, mandatory. We will be forced to harm our children. 54% of American children now have chronic disease. It's ridiculous. House Bill 3063 makes this harm the law. You know, there was a time when kids in school used to say this: I pledge allegiance to my flag and the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I left out the under God because as it was originally written, it didn't have that, and I didn't want to create a whole bunch of hoopla. But with liberty and justice for all. Let's say that together. With liberty and justice for all. Senators and representatives, pledge your allegiance to your constituents who are right here, not to pharma. Vote no on House Bill 3063. I say to each and every one of us here, Together we can change the world. Just say yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Paul. Oregon loves you. Up next, I'd like to introduce the Oregonians for Medical Freedom teenage group. It is Jackson Calhoun who's spearheading that. If he could make his way up to the top steps. Jackson, can you wave to me if you're... There you are. Please, everybody, welcome Jackson Calhoun.
Hi, we are the Oregonians for Medical Freedom student group.
We would like to ask other students to come up and join us. Oh, wait.
We believe that every student deserves an education.
Protect education in Oregon. Oppose HB 3063.
Hi, my name is Serena, and along with helping to Hi, my name is Serena, and along with helping to organize this student group that you see before you today, I'm a part of my drama program at my high school. I'm an active member of a youth alliance called Youth Igniting Change that helps youth get off the streets. And I'm a part of a teen activist group called Coalition for Consent Education, helping to advocate for consent in school systems. I personally volunteer at the soup kitchen, and I have organized a beach cleanup for my community. I am a hard-working student, and I love giving back to my community, as you can see. But HB 3063 will prevent me from continuing to help my community. I do not deserve to be kicked out of my education, out of my community, because of a genetic disorder that enables me to get every single vaccine on the CDC schedule. Vote no on HB 3063 and protect my education and every child's education. Vote no.
Hi, my name is Elena. I'm a very successful student and tested in one of the top schools in Portland. I would like to be a teacher, but HB 3063 would prevent me from doing so. This bill violates our rights to freedom and education. Vote no and oppose HB 3063.
My name is Mira. I am a competitive athlete and a national champion for my climbing in my age group. HB 3063 would prevent me from training with my team, competing in any other competitions, and I wouldn't be able to stay in my school where I love reading and writing, and I am in National Junior Honor Society. Oppose HB 3063 so kids can keep doing what they love.
Hi, my name is Alexa. I stand up here today because in the future, I want to be a women's health practitioner. And if this bill goes through, I will not be able to get an education in Oregon so that I can help my community. Please, let's oppose HB 3063.
Hi, my name is Simone, and I am a hardworking athlete and student in Bend. I am part of WEB, National Junior Honor Society, and TAG programs at my school, and I love writing and language. I competitively rock climb, play lacrosse, and downhill ski. Passing HB 3063 would not only take me out of my school, but also take me away from my sports teams and doing what I love. I do not deserve to have my life as I know it taken away from me due to having a genetic condition that prohibits me from getting any of my vaccines. Oppose HB 3063. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jackson. I recently joined public school after homeschooling my whole life. Over this last school year, I have made many friends and it has become a way of life. This bill would crush many students' social life, which is very important to part of what makes them the person they will grow into. This bill is not only a matter of a child's education, but the friendships that we cherish so deeply. This bill will force parents and children to choose between giving up their friends and education or sacrificing their health and morals.
Thank you. My name is Jackson. I was the first person to start organizing this group. In 6th grade, In 6th grade, I started a drama club with Serena, and we did that for 3 years. We produced 3 productions. This year, I was elected, I suppose, to the Coalition for Consent Education leadership team, where I organized a consent campaign for Sexual Assault Awareness Month in April. I've played cello for 9 years, and this last year I played in the Metropolitan Youth Symphony's concert orchestra. I have a 4.0 GPA, and as I said before, I organized this group here. I dream to grow up to be a full-time activist and help make the world a better place. I do not deserve to be kicked out of school because I am unvaccinated. Protect education in Oregon. Oppose HB 3063. And one last thing for all students, especially ones up here, if you'd like to join this group officially, please see us in room 162 after the rally, and we have sign-ups there and you can get more information. Oppose, in Oregon, oppose HB 3063. It wasn't really a chant, but it's all good.
No, that was wonderful. Thank you so much, Jackson. Thank you, all of you students.
Can I say something? I just want, my name's Sam. I hope to grow up to be an animator someday. And I just want to say, a kid is not going to school without getting vaccinated is unfair. And hopefully hopefully we don't need to be, our kids don't need to be vaccinated. And if HB 3063 wants every kid who goes to school to get vaccinated, then and HB 3063 sucks.
Thank you, Sam. Very well put. I couldn't have said it better myself. Up next, I'd like to introduce Senator Tim Knope from District 27.
Thank you all for coming from all across the state of Oregon. We appreciate the fact that you're here defending your constitutional rights, and nothing is more important than that. When the government can tell you and mandate that you have a medical procedure that you do not want, there is no freedom in America, and that's why 3063 deserves to be defeated. Why would we allow the government to get in between the parents, their child, and their doctor when it comes to vaccines, who knows the health of their child better, the parents or the state? That's what I concluded too. That's why I'm voting no, because you have the right to that decision. We need 15 senators or 30 House members to say no on this bill. It's coming up tomorrow in the Ways and Means Subcommittee, and it's critically important that you visit with senators and representatives today in this building and let them know how you feel about this bill and that they should be voting no on House Bill 3063. Thank you for coming. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Senator. Up next, I have Jennifer Margulis, PhD. She's an award-winning science journalist, and she's been researching and writing about children's health for over 15 years. Please welcome.
So when I was pregnant with my first child, my husband went into the bathroom and started shaving. And I said to him, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I need to look good. I'm about to meet the most important person I've ever met in my entire life." And when that baby was born, I held her in my arms and I thought, I'm meeting someone for the first time that I've never met, but I somehow am totally connected to, and I've been waiting my whole life to meet. It's very special to have a baby, whether you give birth to that baby yourself or that baby comes into your life through an adoption plan, and you want to protect her. That every cell in your body wants to protect your children. Of course, that's what we do as parents. And every single person in this crowd also cares about the health of the community. We care deeply about community. We are not selfish. We are health-minded. To call us selfish or to call us anti-vaccine is to create a false dichotomy. Every single person on both sides of this issue cares about children, and every single person on both sides of this issue should care about safety. So I have to tell you, I'm a very highly vaccinated person. I lived and worked in West Africa. I got the vaccine against yellow fever. I've had other vaccines that most people haven't had. I had no reason when I was holding that baby in my arms to think anything but that I would vaccinate her when the time came. And a nurse came at me with a tray and a vaccine syringe and said, "It's time for her hepatitis B vaccine." But that's the thing, is that I was extremely well educated and I knew that I was not hepatitis B positive. I knew that my husband was not hepatitis B positive. I knew that my daughter would not be using dirty needles, and I knew that she wasn't an intravenous drug user. So all I did was I said to the nurse, "I don't know if I feel comfortable doing that right now. I need to talk to my doctor." And the nurse got angry at me, and I went and I talked to my doctor. And when I went to my doctor's office, I felt very nervous. I was not somebody who was thinking that I would reject vaccines. And I said, "I may have made a terrible choice." And the doctor looked at me and said, "Oh, I'm so glad you didn't do that. That vaccine has been counterindicated in newborns." That was in 1999 in July. The CDC had realized that they hadn't counted up the cumulative exposure that children were getting to one of the vaccine ingredients called thimerosal. That doctor had a fax on her desk saying that we weren't sure if we should continue with this vaccine in newborns because of the cumulative totals of thimerosal. Since then, I found out that countries in Europe that have better infant mortality rates and much better children's health do not do the hepatitis B vaccine at birth. Since then, I found out that 2/3 of the children who get the infant series of hepatitis B will not have lasting immunity when they become sexually active as teenagers, if they do, or if they need it for lifetime protection. So we started a vaccine against a sexually transmitted disease, and now we have the science that shows that that vaccine is unnecessary and actually ineffective as adults. This is not an anti-vaccine argument. This is a scientifically based argument that we now know. So that's the problem. These are the nuances. I want to geek out with you. I want to talk about so many things that will have you lose interest in everything I have to say. But we have to look at the science, and we have to understand that the science is always changing. And what do we know from the peer-reviewed science? We know that the people who are the most educated and often the most affluent are the people who are turning away from some vaccines. This is not about being crazy, hippie-loving, crystal-slinging tree huggers. And if that describes you, I love you. But this is about being educated parents who look at our children's genetic predispositions, their possibility for exposures to diseases, and make judicious choices. Oregonians are smart. Oregonians make really good decisions. Oregon parents care more about their children than anyone on earth. And when something goes wrong with their child, whether that is a complication from an infectious disease, which does happen, or that's a complication from an adverse reaction to a vaccine, which also does happen, it's the parents who are responsible for that child for the rest of his or her life. It's not it's not the federal government, it's not even the doctor, it's the family. So earlier today, I met a little boy who's 10 years old, who is biting his hand, whose parents came here today, and he can't speak, and he was freaking out because there was so much sensory overload. I speak for that little boy. His life, his parents tell me that he had a vaccine reaction, that they saw him regress after vaccinations. Though I have not had that specific experience, I believe the parents. I also speak for the religious minority. My grandfather emigrated here from Russia. He was a Jewish American. He came here because he was interested in religious freedom. He was the subject of bigotry, hate, discrimination in Russia, and he came to America because America is a place where people can be free. America is a place where we defend religious minorities. Even if we don't necessarily agree with their choices, we give them the right to religious freedom. We are not a discriminatory people. We do not discriminate against children because of the religious or philosophical choices of their parents. So people who adhere to the Church of Life, the Christian Scientists, the Church of Life, I'm saying it wrong, People who adhere to Christian Scientists often don't vaccinate their children. Maybe I won't agree with that choice, but I defend their right to have the choice about whether or not their children should get vaccines. People in the Orthodox Jewish community in New York and elsewhere, some of whom believe that their body is a temple and they do not want to vaccinate. They want to put those decisions in the hands of God. Again, whether or not I agree with that is irrelevant. They must have the right to religious freedom. And then there are people who are deeply religious, practicing Catholics and Christians, who decide that they want to vaccinate, but they will not use vaccines that were grown on cell lines from aborted fetal tissue. They don't believe that that's okay. They do not want to inject their bodies with fragments of human DNA. We heard today in a private session with doctors and PhD scientists that over 75 aborted fetuses have been used in the manufacturing and the making of vaccines. So when you hear that there were only 2 abortions and that happened in 1970, you are being told a lie. We are anti-discrimination, and we are anti-HB 3063. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Thank you, Jennifer Margulis. That was wonderful. Up next, I'd like to introduce Rep. Bill Post from District 25.
I will be very fast because I have to go back in there and vote on a bunch of nutty stuff. Okay, so I generally just vote no. It makes it a lot easier. So here's what I want to say. I put out a press release last week, and I still stand by it. I am asking the sponsors and co-sponsors of this bill to take your name off this bill and kill this bill right now. Kill the bill. Kill the bill. Kill the bill. That's awesome. Now, I want to tell you, real quick, how many people were paid to come here today? I say that for a reason. There's a very partisan group that's here that are called Moms Demand Action. You look like moms that demand action. Real action. The action that we have freedom. Freedom in this country and freedom in this state. So I thank each and every one of you because you're here because you care. You really care. Thank you. No on HB 3063.
Thank you, Rep. Post. I just want to say it's and dads, too. All right, up next we have Senator Kim Thatcher representing District 13.
Yeah. Wow. I wish I had gotten that on video and say, hey, family, I do things that people like around here. Anyway, I've been in the House for a number of years, and now I'm in the Senate, and I have to tell you, I have never seen anything like the overreach, legislative overreach that I've seen this session. And on the other side of it, I've also never seen anything like this. You've worked so hard. You continue to work hard. You don't just show up for a day and say, well, they ran over us, and you go home. No, you are coming in, and you are making your voice heard. And not just because you yell really well, but because you are coming in and you're visiting your legislators and you're being kind and you're being persuasive. You're not an organized special interest group. Obviously, you are here because you have a special interest in not allowing our government to be our children's parent. Your moms, your dads, and brothers and sisters, and grandmas and grandpas, and aunts and uncles, and you're just here because you say, I will choose for my child. That's what you're saying. And I am as outraged as you are in the overreach that we are seeing. And though it's daunting. It's very daunting. Got a big old marble building we're standing in front of. And it's a lot of hard work. But you are doing much to change people's minds. I just hope that at the end of the day that we can get there. This 3063 I've dubbed the Forcible Injections Act because we would effectively have unelected bureaucrats and big pharma barring the door to your children's school. For perfectly healthy children barred from school if they don't have their injection papers submitted. Yeah. We cannot allow that. It violates informed consent, it violates parental rights, and it is pure overreach. Yeah. Can you imagine your children's school being blocked and public spaces? Public spaces. Can you imagine there being a checkpoint saying, show your papers? That's kind of what they're saying here. And so much work needs to be done. I have to tell you, though it's been amended, the essence of the bill is still intact. And there will be public hearing, and I was told it will be about an hour of public testimony, 2 minutes each. This is what I'm telling you. Be prepared. And then there'll be an hour of discussing the various amendments. Yes, I have submitted 29 amendments. So I'm hoping those will be included in the discussion on amendments tomorrow. But I have been told that they have every intention of moving this to the next level, which would be to the full Ways and Means. Yeah. So be prepared. They're going to alternate between pro 3063 and against 3063. As they go through testimony tomorrow, they're going to have 2 minutes allowed for each of you to testify. So be prepared. You may, if you have a longer message, maybe gang up with somebody else to carry on the rest of that message if it's going to be more than 2 minutes. Anyway, keep up the good work. Though I've never seen anything like the overreach, I've never seen anything like the likes of you. So keep up that great work. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Thatcher. I want to welcome Rep. Cedric Hayden from District 7 to say something really quick.
Wow, what I want to thank you for all the work that you have done on this bill. It is just so heartening to see Oregon organizing come out and let your voice be heard through emails, through social media. And as some of you know, I serve as vice chair of the Health Policy Committee on the House side. This bill will be, and we fought against it there. I think it's a far overreach to take parental rights away from them and put a bureaucracy which basically boils down to the OHA. Even with medical exemptions, it's not between a doctor and a parent and a child to make that decision. They do throw in the local public health, but those are still regulated through the OHA. So there really isn't an exemption under the bill that's coming forward. Even looking at the medical exemptions, it's so narrow. And so I think your voice has really made a difference here. We are going to try and still get amendments in it, but honestly, I'm not seeing amendments that would fix the concern in this bill. So, that's what I'm getting to. Keep the pressure up. If you look at what Oregon is doing, basically it's let no crisis go to waste, right? We have 10 measles vaccinations here, or 10 measles cases in Oregon, where it's Washington and other states back on the East Coast where they're dealing with the problems, but they're not being nearly as aggressive as Oregon's being for the 10 cases that we have here. So thank you for... We're going to keep working on it. It'll be up again tomorrow, and every step of the way, we are going to try and keep parental rights where they should be in the home with you and your kids.
Thank you so much. Up next, I'd like to introduce Dennis Linthicum, representing District 28.
Thank you so much. You guys are fabulous. Keep up the good work. There are so many, and whoever's coming up with these phrases is fabulous. There's follow the money. There's we're not livestock. This one here is my favorite. Take your needles and shove them. Here's what's important today. You guys are here. This is a force like we've never seen here at the Capitol. You're making a big difference. It's public pressure that will count. Right now, there's too much investment in this. There's too much money to be made. There's too many powerful interests seeking their own. This is cronyism at its worst. And the public, your perspective, your worldview, your care for your own children, your love of your own children, you are the only ones who are capable of stopping this. I suggest today, before you get in your cars and drive for home, you go by everyone who is a sponsor or co-sponsor, stop by their office. Be as kind and courteous as you can be, and please ask them, don't support HB 3063. We need the public. Right now I'm in a super minority position in the Senate side that's 18 to 12. On the House side, it's 40 to 20. We're completely outnumbered. We have Republicans. We have people who love and care for their children. It's your job to storm this building and tell them to stop this overreach. And here's what's so cool. What is so very cool is you can do it. You're capable. You're here. You're already on fire. So let's go. Stop 3063. Give me 3 of those. Stop 3063. Stop 3063. Stop 3063. You are great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator. I'd like to invite Jessica Gomez up to the stage. She's the founder and CEO of Rogue Valley Micro Devices, a high-tech manufacturing company in Southern Oregon. She's the who is committed to supporting the people in her community. Jessica ran Oregon State Senate District 3 in 2018 and serves on a number of boards and commissions.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, you guys are beautiful. What a fantastic turnout. I'm just so proud. It is an honor and a privilege to be here today. I come from a long line of strong, independent Latina women who taught me that it was important to have a voice and taught me it was important to use that voice for the good. Now I'm an adult and I have a technology company, and so I have the opportunity to work with the brightest minds in science and technology, and I can tell you, we are not always right. Science is imperfect by its own nature. This is really tough because we've got a situation now where our democratic republic it's at a turning point, right? It was set up to protect the rights of the few against the will of the many. And now we continue to see these situations where that might be violated. When my parents moved to Oregon from New York, they came here because Oregon aligned with their value system. It's important what we put in our bodies. It's important. We agonize over access to organic foods, to non-GMO foods. We agonize whether or not to have a hospital birth or to try for a home birth. I had two. It's not without complications. When my daughter was born, she had to go to the hospital. She had a lung infection. 24 hours later, a nurse came in and said, hey, we would like to give your baby a Hep V vaccine. My husband and I didn't just say no. What did we say? Hell no. This is not in line with Oregon values. And I just want to say thank you on behalf of myself and my family and everyone else in Oregon that believes that our rights as parents should be protected. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Up next, I'd like to introduce Jonathan Lockwood. He's the spokesman for Senator Kim Thatcher, Senate Republican Whip Dennis Linthicum, and Rep. Bill Post. He's held leadership positions in nonprofits, completed for public policy fellowships in think tanks, and he sits on the National Board of Policy Advisors for the Heartland Institute, focusing on education and healthcare.
So it's amazing how many people were able to come out during the week. It's hard to bring your families so far from all over the state. We have people from Central Oregon. We have people from all over the state, the coast. So I just want to thank you all so much for being here today. Thank you to Oregonians for Medical Freedom and the physicians and experts speaking out in support of vaccine safety here today at the Oregon Capitol. And I want to thank the members of the Oregon Legislature who have been loud, bold, and fearless in this fight against House Bill 3063. Also known as the Forcible Drug Injections Act. Particularly, Senate Republican Whip Dennis Linthicum and Senator Kim Thatcher have been on the front lines of this fight. I'm their spokesperson. I couldn't think of any lawmakers who would be better to work for and support in their pushback against really an out-of-control supermajority and our governor. I want us to take a moment, though. I want us to take a moment, though, and stop. I want us to breathe and look around us right now. We are making history. America is watching us. We have been at the tip of the spear fighting back against this thing. I have had representatives and senators contact me from other states, from Minnesota, Maryland, and I come to you all today as a messenger. My name's Jonathan Lockwood. I've worked in public policy, as you know, they've already introduced. I had that written. I don't usually write speeches. But I've worked inside the system and outside the system. And from what I've seen firsthand is how corrupt this system keeps people down, protects the status quo, and tries desperately to conceal the truth. But people across the nation on every level and from every walk of life, I think, are waking up. We're leading change, and we are leading a fight that shouldn't have to be fought for freedom. And before I get started, I want you to join me. Join me in a moment of silence for all of the people who have been silenced by their governments and all of the censored voices on social media. Join me in a moment of silence for the people who have been injured and all the people who are across the nation fighting the same evil we're fighting here today. Let's pause. Where there's a risk, there must be a choice. The government has absolutely no right to mandate liability-free products. Our legislators are trying to put corporate interests and drug profiteers ahead of the people they have been elected to represent. And a lot of people are trying to make this thing a lot more partisan than it is. You know, they get one Republican to join a bunch of Democrats and it's bipartisan. But you have a ton of Democrats out here with a bunch of people that have never been political a day in their life, and all of a sudden it's alt-vax. Not true. And as progressive Democrat Governor Jared Polis very recently said, the government has absolutely no right to mandate that you take a drug injection at the point of a gun. And that's a Democrat. There's tremendous multi-partisan opposition to this bill. The will of the people is clear. Some have tried to marginalize people here today. Some have tried to say that we're just some cantankerous vocal minority. That's a lie. We're a part of the American majority who believes in vaccine safety, informed consent, and sound medical decisions being made in doctors' offices by patients and their physicians, not by unelected bureaucrats, politicians, and lobbyists. House Bill 3063 is a discriminatory law that will target at least 35,000 healthy children and discriminate against minorities and low-income families. We will not stand for the segregation or the false narrative that this bill somehow provides choice. It's anything but a choice. Throwing children out of school for not having every single drug injection that unelected bureaucrats say they must have is an injustice. And the proponents of this bill are on the wrong side of history. They have put themselves on a list of people who are putting profits ahead of people. They are putting themselves on a list of people who refuse to open their eyes. We're done. We will kill this bill. It will die, and we will win.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Jonathan Lockwood. That was amazing. Kill the bill. 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 You know, I've been to a lot of rallies, and I have never seen it flow all the way over onto the park side like this before. It's amazing. You guys are amazing. Up next we have Dr. James Lyons-Weiler, PhD. He is the founder and CEO of the Institute for Pure and Applied Knowledge, also known as IPAC, an active research scientist. He is the author of 3 books, one on Ebola, another on cures versus profits, and a third on environmental and genetic causes of autism. Please welcome him.
I'm really curious about this crowd because, you know, in the next 30 days, I'm going to be in 6, and those 6 states. In those 6 states, I'm going to be meeting thousands of people just like you. But I'm really curious about who you are. So, 3 years ago, I was at a rally. 2 years ago, I was at a rally here. It was all moms. Look around at the dads who are here. Give a hand to the dads for showing up. This bill has awakened something in the people of Oregon that they're never going to forget. I want to hear from the Democrats. Democrats. I want to hear from the Republicans. I want to hear from the independents. There's your... That's not partisan politics. You know, I've worked very hard to try to understand myself as a scientist what's wrong with the vaccination program, what's wrong with the vaccines. And I'm happy to tell you that I am 100%, and my institute is 100% behind Dr. Paul Thomas in the vaccinated versus unvaccinated study we're doing. It's too late. It's too late. Stop the study, okay? So I have a question for you. I look around this crowd. I see families, moms, dads, who are so well informed. Better informed than your legislators, better informed than your doctors. Are you informed? Do you consent? Are you informed? I can't hear you. Consent. Are you informed? Do you consent? Let them hear you. Are you conformed? Or do you consent? It's my job as a scientist when I do research studies to make sure that every person that's on that study signs an informed consent form. If I'm going to do human subjects research, when they do human studies on vaccines in post-market surveillance studies, they're doing human subjects research. And the Code of Federal Regulations guarantees you the right to say no to be part of post-market surveillance research. This bill doesn't change the federal law. You're still protected against participating in any clinical trial you don't want to be part of. Are you informed? Yes. Do you consent? No. Thank you.
Thank you, James. I'd like to invite Mary Holland, Esquire, the NYU law professor, director of the Graduate Legal Skills Program at New York University School of Law, educated at Harvard and Columbia Universities, has worked in international public and private law. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm humbled to be here. What a fantastic crowd. So my message to the legislatures inside is if it's not broken, don't fix it. Just do nothing. 46 states have been doing this for 50 years. 10 cases of measles is not making the system broken. Just do nothing. So I'm here from New York, as Sarah said, and I've been watching what's been happening in New York, in Rockland County and in New York City. And we have had power grabs that even outshine yours here in Oregon. So we have a county executive in Oregon who tried to put all unvaccinated children in a county of 300,000 people under house arrest. He declared that they couldn't go to the mall, they couldn't go to school, they couldn't go to synagogue, they couldn't go to any place where more than 10 people congregated. And you know what? The courts threw it out. They said he didn't have the right. And you know what? He appealed it, and he lost on appeal, and the appellate court told him, you can't appeal it to the highest court. And in New York City, the mayor, not to be outdone, and that county executive was a Republican. The mayor of New York City is a Democrat. The Democrat gave, through the Commissioner of Health, put out an order that said if you do not vaccinate your children or yourself, if you haven't had the MMR or you don't have documented immunity, if you don't do that within 48 hours, you are subject to criminal sanctions, including imprisonment. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And fortunately, a lawsuit was filed, and within a week, guess what? They took off criminal sanctions, and they took off 48 hours, and they said they're not really going to enforce it. That lawsuit is not over, but this level of overreach is unacceptable, intolerable, We're not going to put up with it. So I want to take us back right now just to first principles. I actually want to read you a section of the Declaration of Independence, which is why we're all here in this amazing country, right? They threatened assembly, they threatened religion, and that's not what our country is founded on. So I want to read you very briefly from the Declaration. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men, I'm going to add and women, are created equal, and they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men and women, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it's the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundations on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. That's what our founding fathers and our founding mothers had to say. So do you consent to compulsory vaccination with no exemptions? Do you consent to give up your religious and philosophical rights? No. Do you consent to put your child on the altar of vaccines, no matter the product? No. Do you consent that the state can dictate whatever's injected into you and your children? No. Do you consent to liability-free vaccines? No. Do you consent to remain silent about the harms that vaccines are causing to children? No. So will you rise up and throw out of office any legislator who would deprive you of your right to informed consent? Will you stick to this as long as it takes to get these folks out of office? And will you stand up for your rights as parents and human beings for prior, free, and informed consent to all medical interventions, including vaccines? And will we win? Yes, we will win. We will win this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary. So our grand finale. Welcome, Del Bigtree, Emmy Award-winning producer of the daytime talk show The Doctors for 6 years, producer of the movie Vaxxed, and founder of the Informed Consent Action Network. He is the host of the successful talk show The High Wire.
Wow. All right. Amazing, Oregon. First of all, we are broadcasting live The High Wire right now. Spin that camera around and show them what America looks like. Show them what freedom looks like. Thousands of people right now in Oregon. I know that across on the other side of the building, Mothers for the Pharmaceutical Takeover of Their Children's Bodies is meeting. I think there's like 6 people over there supporting this bill. You know, we get blamed, or I get accused a lot of spreading misinformation. And the truth is what I'm sharing is missed information. We have been, we have a pharmaceutical institution that is purposefully avoiding doing proper studies, is manipulating this discussion, and that is stopping. Their science is crumbling down around them. That's why they're having to force like this, because they're losing the argument. They have no science. As Bobby Kennedy says all the time, saying you've done the science does not mean the science exists. Show us the science. I want to read this because this is really at the heart of what this is all about. This is the Nuremberg Code, okay? Now, I got into some heat because recently I stood up for the Hasidic Jewish community in Rockland, New York, who were going to be banned from the streets, from public places, from their own synagogues during Passover. Because I spoke out, I've been interviewed by countless news agencies asking, why would I do such a thing? And I very sincerely said, because I think I was raised right. My parents told me that we were always supposed to protect the minority, the innocent, everybody's religious freedoms. That's what this country stood for. And most of all, I was supposed to learn my history so that I would not be doomed to repeat it. So let's just look at a piece of history, because we put 16 doctors on trial after Nazi Germany. Really the last 16. The last 16 that thought it was okay because every other doctor was doing it, because every government official said it was okay. Well, they still went on trial, and the argument that everybody else was doing it did not stand up. In fact, I remember my mom always saying, don't just do something because everybody else is doing it. Instead, do what's right. This is the Nuremberg Code for all the people in this building that have forgotten it. This is informed consent, the very first rule in the Nuremberg Code. Here we go. As soon as I can get all the pop-ups to stop. Here we go. The voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. This means that the person involved should have legal capacity to give consent, should be so situated as to be able to exercise free power of choice, without the intervention of any element of force, fraud, deceit, duress, overreaching, or other ulterior form of constraint or coercion. If this law that is going to take away the right to send your children to the public school that your taxes are paying for, if this law keeps you from going to the private school that you are choosing, then what is that other than coercion? Continuing on. And should have sufficient knowledge and comprehension of the element of the subject matter. Hold on. All right. Subject matter involved as to enable him to understand the decision. This latter element requires that before the acceptance of an affirmative decision by the experimental subject, there should be made known to him the nature, duration, and purpose of the experiment, the method and means by which it is to be conducted, all conveniences and hazards reasonably to be expected, and the effects upon his health or person, which may possibly come from the participation in the experiment. So there are people, when we used to say this 3 years ago, that would say, well, vaccines aren't an experiment, it's a medical procedure. Except, unfortunately, the work of Bobby Kennedy and myself has proved otherwise. As many of you know, we've won 2 lawsuits now against our health government agencies. One against the National Institute of Health, one against Health and Human Services, and we just settled a case with the FDA, which proved that they never tested a vaccine on women, even though they're recommending it for all pregnant women. So to all the news cameras out there and everybody that wants to report on the misinformation, what in the Nuremberg Code is misinformation? What are lawsuits is misinformation? In fact, I would have you try. I'm not making this easy. All right. I would want anyone to try and win lawsuits against government health agencies using misinformation. Try to do it. It doesn't happen. We are the truth. We are speaking the truth. We are representing the truth. So let's talk about the facts. Here are the facts. We have more babies dying on the first day of life in the United States of America than every other industrialized nation combined. Fact. We have more babies that die in the first year of life in the United States of America than every other industrialized nation. It's just been reported. You are 70% more likely to die in America before you reach the age of 18 than the 20 other richest nations in the world. And now, the third leading cause of death in America is hospitals themselves. Medical error, dying for reasons other than you entered the hospital for. Now, I've said that in interviews, and people will say, well, you're saying that vaccines cause that? And I say, well, there's a lot of science showing that it does. But even if that wasn't the case, here's my point. With the greatest destruction of health we've ever seen in our children, with the sickest generation of children our nation has ever seen, why should I be forced to listen to a single word the health departments that are in charge of that decline have created? They want to tell us how much money they've saved America by stopping a rash that lasts for 4 days. They want to tell us how much they've saved America for stopping diarrhea in our babies for 3 days. What they don't want to talk about is the rise in chronic illness like we have never seen on this planet. From 12.8% chronic illness in the 1980s, when we were only giving 10 vaccines to our children, to now 54% of America's children have a chronic illness. Neurological disorders skyrocketing. How about all of the children that are on Humira? How about the 1 in 4 children that's on a drug the rest of their lives? Who's paying for that? Who's paying for the encephalopathy, the childhood cancer that's increased 33%, the diabetes, the multiple sclerosis, the ADD, the ADHD? And the list goes on and on. The sickest generation of children we have ever seen in this country. And yet in this building, there are politicians that will say that we hand our bodies over to the pharmaceutical industry. We will not, sorry, full stop, not be doing anything that involves the pharmaceutical industry, especially about when we're talking about the only product the pharmaceutical industry makes that they cannot be sued for. How does that make sense to anyone? I see the news cameras around here. How does that make sense, folks? Who trusts the pharmaceutical industry so implicitly that you would give them a free ride on any product? They didn't get a free ride on Johnson & Johnson's talcum powder, but they still poisoned our children with asbestos and just paid out $3 billion for having lied about it for 50 years. Luckily, we knew. Luckily, we found out. Luckily, we could sue. How about Vioxx, made by Merck, that beautiful company that makes most of your childhood vaccines? When we sued Vioxx for killing over 100,000 people, many say more like 500,000 people, what did we discover? Internal memos by Merck saying, don't worry. Don't worry about those doctors that are questioning the safety of Vioxx. We will hunt them down and destroy them where they live. Why do we know that we got that internal email? Because we could sue. And yet these politicians are listening to companies. They're listening to companies like Merck that think of you like that. They don't care that they knew their drug would cause heart attacks. They want to make money. They know they can push it through. But still, we could sue, but not vaccines. And now this building, in this beautiful state of Oregon, that my entire childhood I would visit, we would come here camping and swimming in your beautiful clean air and your trees and your nature and your spring water. I came from Colorado, another beautiful state. because nature was important to my family. What we are, what God created, this beautiful resource of Oregon. Are we really going to sell it to pharma? No, we are not. When I think about those doctors in the Nuremberg trials, and I think about the lawsuits we're now winning, we've got 3 whistleblowers, folks. 3 now. Dr. William Thompson. Let's hear it for Dr. William Thompson. Dr. William Thompson, who still works at the CDC, who is still protected by whistleblower status, who still says we committed scientific fraud in the MMR autism study, and we saw a causal relationship between the MMR vaccine and autism. Full stop. I want to bring up the second one. Now Dr. Andrew Zimmerman, mentioned before, the state's leading witness against autism families. 5,000 cases in vaccine court. We've taken liability away from the industry. We put it on Health and Human Services. Dr. Andrew Zimmerman, the world's leading neurologist, the greatest specialist on autism, was used to defeat the families and say that vaccines don't cause autism. They used his line, and we've heard it ad nauseum. We've heard it in this building. There is no mechanism by which a vaccine causes autism. Only one problem. Only one problem now. Dr. Andrew Zimmerman has stepped forward and he's put forward against an affidavit against the Department of Justice. And what is he saying? They've lied. They've lied to you. Your government has lied to you. The Department of Justice has lied to you. How? Because I saw a case in the middle of that proceeding of 5,000 families. I witnessed a child that regressed into autism before my eyes. It happened to someone, one of my colleagues I was working with, and we studied that child and we found it. We found the connection. A vaccine can cause autism if there's an underlying mitochondrial disorder. So he went to the Department of Justice and told them, in this case that we're now, I have discovered that this was caused by vaccines, and here is the mechanism. What did the Department of Justice do? The lawyers that you fund with your taxpayer money that are supposed to be protecting consumers, not protecting industries, they fired Dr. Andrew Zimmerman that night. They asked him not to come to court again. But even worse, in the case that we're going to decide the fate for all of those... Microphone. Seriously. In all of these, they ended up using his previous quote. When you read those hearings, they say Dr. Andrew Zimmerman is not here leading authority on this issue, and he has said that there is no mechanism by which a vaccine causes autism. That is fraud committed by your government agencies, the Department of Justice and Health and Human Services. This is why Bobby Kennedy is going to sue their balls off. They have lied to you. They have poisoned you. And now the authorities are asking to continue the poisoning and the destruction in the face of whistleblowers, in the face of witnesses. And by the way, if you're going to call us the anti-vaccine community, let's figure out who that is. Can everyone that has a vaccine-injured child now an ex-vaxxer, please raise your hand? Can everyone that has a vaccine-injured child stop vaccinating and has the other kids that are the healthiest they've ever seen, please raise your hand? There you go, folks. There's the vax versus unvax study that's being done all over this country. And now will everybody that is not vaccinating their child because they listened to the eyewitness testimony of millions of people around the world that said my child was injured by a vaccine, please raise your hand now. That is this movement. That is what's growing across this country. That is who we are. This is the face of America. This is the face of a healthy, vibrant, beautiful America. We will not consent. We will not let this building take that from us. We now know the science. And any doctor that wants to step up here now and debate me, I'll do it immediately. Bring your science. Every study done in the world that has compared vaccinated children to completely unvaccinated children has shown that the vaccinated children are just plain sicker. I hate to report that. I worked on the Doctor's Television Show. I believe in medicine. It's true. The study out of Mississippi by Mawson, 4 times the rate of autism amongst the vaccinated, 5 times the rate of neurological disorders, 30 times the rate of allergic rhinitis. And the list goes on and on and on. We know that our unvaccinated children are just plain healthier. I'm sorry to admit it. I'm sorry that you're angry at us, that we didn't listen, that we didn't just hand our kids over. I'm sorry that your children have eczema. I'm sorry that they have asthma. I'm sorry that they have diabetes. I'm sorry that they're dying of childhood leukemia. Sorry for all of the medical establishment that lied to you. But you need to know this now. If you do not stand with us now, you're next. Every adult is next. Watch California. Watch New York, the first adult mandate we have seen. This is coming for all of us. This is not about 2% of the unvaccinated children in Oregon. This is not about 2% of the unvaccinated children in America. This is about 320 million Americans being lined up on a yearly basis for vaccines that wear off every couple of years and cause autoimmune issues like we have never seen in this country. This is about an indentured society to the most corrupt industry the world has ever seen. But we will not let that happen. We stand today because that will not happen. We stand today for health now, freedom now, health now, freedom now, health now, freedom now, health now, freedom now, health now, freedom is what this is about. Thank you for turning out. We are going to win this. The world is changing because of every single one of you. Take that!
Wow. Thank you, Del. Everybody give it up again for Del Bigtree for coming out here. And for all the speakers that spoke today to stand up for you and to stand up for Oregon, who drove miles and hours and... Hello? Okay. All right. Sorry about that. But anyways, so for all of our speakers that came to help Oregon, to speak out for you, to defend our rights, give everybody a big hand, guys. All right. So I just want to give a few reminders here and kind of just give you some direction in terms of what's going on. So, you know, as we've talked about, we have a big day tomorrow, guys. They've scheduled this bill for a hearing tomorrow morning at 8:30, all right? That came out on Monday. That came out yesterday. So we need as many of you here as you can to be here tomorrow at 8:30 to provide your testimony and to show the legislators in this building that you want them to vote no on this bill and you will not consent. Okay? And so what's so important here is your voice in this movement and your relationship with your legislators. So again, if you want, we have a way to connect you directly to your legislators and for you to get in-time updates on this bill. If you text that word rally again to 70375, that'll put you directly in touch with your legislators and also put you on our list so we can give you real-time updates on this bill. Next, I have a couple just housekeeping items. So we do encourage you to come into the building respectfully and seek out who your legislator is and work to schedule an appointment if you don't have one already set today. So I'd like everybody in a yellow cap and a blue cap to come up to the front of the building. The people in yellow caps are our information captains, and they will help you find who your legislator is if you don't know and you're not able to connect to the application. And then members in blue caps are here to help you if you want like a building buddy to come with you and walk up to your legislator's office and find out where that is. Oregonians for Medical Freedom, we pride ourselves on our reputation of respectful conduct and sharing in relationships with our legislators. We have the truth on our side, and we are here to share it respectfully and to have those conversations with them. So we do ask that you maintain, respectful behavior. They are working in there. You're welcome to come up to your legislator's office to ask to schedule an appointment. They are very busy, but we just want to maintain that respectful attitude in the building. And with that building policy, they do not allow any signs in the building or anything that looks like a sign. So we have some flyers over in the tent. But if it's bigger than an 8x10, you cannot take it out here. You can leave it on this side here. And also, say hi to everybody in the back over there in the park. There's so many of us. We couldn't fit right here. Back there, you will find we had a kids' tent. We have 4 different food trucks if you need to get some lunch. Restrooms are located in the building. And we hope you enjoy the rest of the afternoon. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for watching, and thank you for being a Highwire Insider. Be sure to share this show with your friends on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, and Instagram, because knowledge is power, power is freedom, and we need all we can get.